systems of nonlinear equations. That means I don't just have x's and y's. I might have x squared. I might have y squared. So I could have a parabola. I could have a circle even. It's kind of interesting. So let's just jump right in. Okay, so let's say I have this system. X squared equals 2y plus 10. And then 3x minus y equals 9. Well, we could do elimination, but I think I'm going to do substitution because I can rearrange that second equation to be a y equals. If I rearrange that second equation, 3x minus y equals 9, I'd get 3x minus 9 equals y. And then what I can do is take that y and replace the y in the first equation. So x squared equals 2 times 3x minus 9 plus 10. I have a quadratic. We need to get everything on one side. That'd be a negative 8, so it can come over and be a plus 8. And I need to solve that quadratic. So we can solve it by factoring, by quadratic formula. I think this factors. X and x multiplies to be 8, but adds to be 6. Well, that'd be a negative 4 and a negative 2. So that means I've got x minus 4 equals 0, x minus 2 equals 0, x equals 4, x equals 2. Now we want to check our answers. Now remember, to be a solution, it needs to work in both equations. So if I plug, let's start with x equals 4. So if I start with x equals 4, let's start with this equation over here. I would get y equals 3 times 4 minus 9. I get 12 minus 9, which is a 3. Will x and y work in the first equation? So it's x squared. Whoops. What was it? Yeah, x squared. Okay, here's 4. 4 squared equals 2 times y plus 10. So 16 equals 6 plus 10. Yay! So 4 comma 3 works. What about x equals 2? Well, let's find that y value. Y equals 3 times x minus 9. That's a negative 3. Okay, so let's go back to equation 1, which was x squared equals 2 times y plus 10. Does that work? It does. So both of those points are solutions. That means I have a parabola and a line, and they're crossing 2 times, which makes sense. I mean, if I drew a parabola and I could cross it twice, that's totally doable. Let's do another one. There's a line. And that is a circle. I think I want to use substitution here. I think I'm going to take the first equation and let's solve for y. Okay, so I can replace this y with what y is equal to. So I get x minus 2 squared plus x minus 3 plus 3 squared equals 4. Now this is really x minus 2 times x minus 2. So that's going to be x squared minus 4x plus 4. Over here, the 3's are going to cancel, so I'm just going to have an x squared equals 4. That turned out nice. So that gives me 2x squared minus 4x. Oh, the 4's are going to cancel. That's nice, too. I can factor out a 2 and an x from each term. So I end up with these two solutions, x equals 0 and x equals 2. I have this equation that will help me find my y's. X minus 3 is y. So when I plug in 0, I'll get a y value of negative 3. When I plug in 2, I'll get a y value of negative 1. But I have to make sure that this works in the other equation. So I'm going to plug x and y into this second equation. So x minus 2 squared would be 0 minus 2 squared plus y plus 3, so negative 3 plus 3 squared, does that equal 4? Well, negative 2 squared is 4. Negative 3 plus 3 is 0. Squared doesn't really matter. And yes, it does work. So that first point does work. Let's try the next one. X minus 2 squared plus y plus 3 squared. Does that equal 4? Well, that's going to be 0. It's going to be 2 squared. And it does. So again, I have 2 points that work. And let's think about that. If I have a circle and a line, can it cross twice? It sure can. Equation 3. What if I have these two equations? Well, I could do some kind of substitution here. I could solve this one for y squared, then substitute into there. You could always do substitution, but just for fun, I'm going to do the elimination method. I'm going to keep the first equation just like it is. But I'm going to make the second one all negative. And end up with 3x squared equals 3. So x squared equals 1. That gives me x equals 1, x equals negative 1. Now, what y values would go with that? Well, if I plug in 1 into here, I'd have 1 squared, which is 1. So 1 plus y squared equals 10. Y squared equals 9. So if I plug in 1, I get y equals positive or negative 3. What happens if I plug in negative 1? Well, negative 1 squared is still 1. So I'd also get y equals plus or minus 3. Okay, so I've got lots of points here. I've got the point 1, 3. I've got the point 1, negative 3. I also have the point negative 1, 3, and the point negative 1, negative 3. Now, I used equation 2 to find my y value. So to check it, I need to go to equation 1. So this would be 4 times 1 squared plus 3 squared. That's going to be 4 plus 9. It checks. What about if I plug in negative 3? It would still check out because negative 3 squared is 9. Will it make a difference if my x is negative or positive? It won't. So all 4 points work. And so that is the key here, is that you do actually have to check your answers. Let's do one more just for fun. Okay, so I could do substitution, but I want you to think about what would happen if I do substitution here. If I do substitution, I'm going to be squaring x squared plus 3. That's going to get a little nasty. So what I think I'm going to do instead is rewrite equation 1. I'm going to move the x squared to the left side. And so I have negative x squared plus y equals 3. The reason I'm doing that is because if I add those together, the x squareds disappear. And I'm left with y squared plus y equals 12. 9 plus 3. Well, that's a quadratic. And it does factor. So I'd have y plus 4, y minus 3, y equals negative 4, y equals 3. Now, which one would I want to go back to find the x values? Well, I think I'm going to go with this original first one, y equals, okay, so that'd be negative 4 equals x squared plus 3. Subtract the 3, that's a negative 7 equals x squared. This is going to give me an imaginary answer. And when we're talking about these solutions, we're wanting real solutions. So this is going to be a no-go. What about the other one? 3 equals x squared plus 3. Subtract the 3, get 0 equals x squared. So x is 0. Now we have to make sure it works in the other equation. So that equation was x squared plus y squared equals 9. 0 squared plus 3 squared does equal 9. So this point, 0, 3, does work.